What's up, guys? This morning, I tuned in to a former teacher who was sharing how one of 5 reasons why she had to quit teaching revolved around parents' complaints against homework. And that one shocked me because I had heard that there were some parents who were sort of boycotting homework. They just didn't want to be involved, invested with their kids, or in some cases, because the parent had lapses in their education, they dead ass didn't know how to help their own kids with homework. But I didn't think that this was such a widespread problem that pretty much universally everybody in this country is like protesting homework. And I looked at it as a symptom of what we pretty much see everywhere, how there's no respect for teachers, no respect for policemen. I also remember watching this one video, now that I mentioned the police, of how they were being super kind, super polite, trying to reason with somebody who simply was not listening. They needed to get off a property that they were not supposed to be in. And then I'm grateful for that footage that they get to have and publish, because a lot of it is just not listening and not really considering your choices and the consequences that may follow them. The lady they were dealing with, she was like, "Do y'all get off on this?" Because she had to be pat down just like any other suspect ever. "And how do y'all do this to me? I am highly educated. I have a ton of money. I voted for Trump, this and that." And the worst part about it to me is that when the police kept telling her, "Hey, if you don't leave willingly, we're going to have to take you out of here unwillingly, and we don't want to do that." If it wasn't for footage like that, we would be probably accusing the police of brutality if we only took the lady's side of the story. So when it comes to homework, I look at it as, if it weren't for teachers sharing these stories, I probably wouldn't have found out about it, especially given that my mom was a teacher and she undoubtedly supervised me to an extent, not necessarily sat down with me to do homework beyond elementary school, because obviously I didn't need it. But she would every single day ask about my homework. "Where are you at? What is due? I probably cannot help you with some of it, but what's happening?" She saw my progress reports. I always turned them in. She knew I was doing my homework. She understood what grade percentage homework took up. So there is no way that I'm not doing homework if I'm bringing home all A's, right? Well, this former teacher was explaining how a lot of school districts are opting for making homework not mandatory, not part of the grade scale. And when I thought about that, I went back to my days when I used to have homework. And if it was a subject that I wasn't very confident about, like math, I can tell you that I appreciated having that homework, even if it intimidated me. Because if I had a teacher, especially during high school, that was encouraging, I didn't see homework as punishment. Sometimes I had teachers that, sure, you get graded on getting the answers correct, but if there was a particularly difficult concept and the teacher was aware that we were all struggling with it, what they would do is give you a grade for effort. But if they notice that you are genuinely trying, and when you go to class and they call on you to try to answer something, you give it your best shot, what they would do is they would use that and apply it to your performance, which is, "Hey, I don't understand this. I'm gonna fail this homework because I don't get it." But instead of actually grading you on your performance, they graded you on your attempt. And that was useful because if it wasn't for that, I can tell you I would have failed geometry. It's not like all of my homework was wrong, but as we progressed further into the semester, I can tell you that something started getting really hard for me. What he would do in the mornings is he would walk down the aisle, and as long as we showed him the homework that looked like it had genuine work, like show your work, and they would verify that you at least tried to follow the rules, the arithmetic of it, then they would be like, okay, we're going to go over the homework and see which ones you get right and which ones you get wrong, and whichever ones you get wrong, make sure you ask questions. Then I'm going to give you a new problem for you to try and figure it out. And if you get it right, basically the right answer that you get in class will be applied toward your homework. Homework did not feel punitive. But to hear nowadays that parents are just outright boycotting homework, I look at it as, I think it's a lapse on the parents when it comes to maturity. I feel like you don't want to be burdened by the burdens of your kid. It's supposed to be your job to be reinforcing your kid's education. But for some reason, you want for everything to be done when school is in session and expect for your child to somehow be excelling. And I just think that is impossible and very unfair to claim and expect from teachers and from schools, which are already struggling as it is, and you are adding to the struggle whilst not suggesting any solutions. Some of the parents I heard online talking about homework, it was like, this is too much work. Why can't teachers make this fun? Why is it that my kid has to not have any hours left to do recreational stuff? The teacher who uploaded this subject explained how in other countries where kids are doing well academically, they pretty much get no recreational hours. They can put in 10 hours of homework per week. Some put in another 8 hours. Some have maybe 5 hours. Others have 15 hours. And I don't think that's exploitative. Personally, when I was in school, some homework that I can say I hated a little bit, it would be homework from English classes. But particularly homework that took place with subjects of olden days, like say medieval history. I hated medieval literature and history and those kinds of subjects. Basically anything that went too far back from modern days, I kind of hated it. I really did not value history very much when I was younger, but now that I've gotten older, I can tell you that my attitude toward learning history has changed. And I think it's because outside of school, and I mean no disrespect, nor do I blame my teachers at all, I have been able to choose who I learn from, how I learn it, and I also have more time to personally opt to research further. Let's say that I tune into a video where they have a lecture on a chapter in history. And let's say that this video podcast mentioned something that I remember hearing about in school, but I don't remember the details of it, or we didn't get to deep dive into it. And an example I can think of is the insular cases. Not only were they not mentioned during my class, but they came up in my final exam, in addition to something like the Spanish American War and the war in the Philippines that was mentioned, but we never went into detail about what was happening in the Philippines. I learned about what happened in the Philippines maybe 2 years ago when I went out of my way to look up the Spanish American War and be like, what exactly happened in the Philippines? Why do some Filipinos have Spanish last names? Why can some of them speak Spanish? And why aren't they a Spanish colony? Or why aren't they part of the United States? Something like that. And my jaw just dropped because I thought, this is such an interesting piece of history, but we never got to dwell on it when I was in school. It's as if when I was in school, my homework assignments did not involve this. Why didn't it involve this? Because I have memories of my teachers telling us how They are going to teach us the course based off the feedback they were getting from students that took the final exam. And I remember I told my history teacher that a question that came up on the test that I had no idea about, it was about the insular cases. What were the insular cases? And he was like, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. We didn't get around to that." I don't think I have gotten around to the insular cases in years, come to think of it. And I was like, okay, I wasn't mad at you. I wasn't blaming you. It's just that I saw it and I didn't know what at all. I had no clue whatsoever. But fortunately, multiple choice, 25% chance. I also started to, I guess, become aware of the challenges that our schools were experiencing back when I was in school, but I couldn't have conceived that it would snowball into where we are at today. When I was in school, sure, we had issues with some people's attendance, some people's willingness to do homework and turn it in, but I cannot say that I remember a student or a teacher mentioning that they had a parent come in and completely tell them, hey, stop giving my kid homework. I don't have any recollection of that at all. But now it is so common, so normal to have people boycotting homework that I find that appalling. So much so, it obliged, it forced, obligated schools to opt for not making homework mandatory or even discouraging homework from happening. And some teachers were even saying that they feel like they have to stop giving out homework because it's adding more work on the teacher. And my personal opinion about homework is sometimes I would get a little lazy, I admit, as a student. And sometimes I wish I didn't have homework, especially homework from every subject. But I can tell you that my teachers at my school, they all seem to be pretty well connected with one another. And I remember a teacher, I don't remember which teacher, but I remember hearing them say that it's a teacher from social studies department. They talk to the science teachers department and they're like, hey, when it comes to homework, how much homework are you loading your kids with? And they did that because sometimes the social studies teacher wanted to assign a project and they wanted to consult science and math and English and be like, I just want to make sure that we're not assigning a project concurrently for these kids. Even though we are supposed to practice having a load on our plate as students, we're supposed to learn about management and shit. We still had teachers looking out for us, coordinating when to assign projects so that I wouldn't have two big projects to work on concurrently. And there's a part of me now that wishes that I would have been challenged with juggling more than one project because now I'm curious about what my capacity was at the time as a kid to handle that. But now I think of it as I feel like even teachers' relationships with each other has deteriorated to where teachers are now assigning homework, but it looks like you're overloading the kid. But the problem is teachers in math classes are like, I have to give homework because my kids are not even at grade level yet. So I need to assign the homework to refresh their memory on what they were supposed to know by now so that I can spend maybe 20 minutes on the new concept I'm supposed to teach them. And for tonight, I have to give them homework that involves stuff from the past, but also stuff from the present, so that I can help them with their proficiency. And I find that appalling. I really do. I remember when my teachers used to say that we were a year behind in some cases, like, oh, you guys don't remember learning, I don't know, the quadratic fucking formula that we've been getting since third grade. You don't know it? All right, we're gonna review it. We're gonna review it, review it, review it. I felt in some classes, especially math, that my teacher had to spend time reviewing stuff from the previous year because we were kind of on a slippery slope with it. And I know that here and there were some things that I needed just a little bit of a review, but there were some things that I was like, I don't need this review. I'm ready for the new thing because I'm slow in math and I want to spend that extra time with the new thing so that I can have the time to ask my questions about the new thing that I'm going to need help with. I think that this attitude about homework is a reflection on how parents don't want to do parenting work. They also don't like to see their kids suffer. And I think that makes them spoiled children. And I think they are being unrealistic. They're like, I want my child to be an excellent student, to be proficient in this, to know a new language, shit like that. But you don't want to establish the discipline, support the work, show up for them, and take them to the places they need to go to make this possible. I feel like the only time a parent invests in a kid is when the kid is in a sports team or something. I never really hear an attitude of parents saying, my kid has to train too much for this sport. No, you take them to practice and you're okay with that because I'm guessing practice for the kids is fun, but in the same manner that your kid needs to practice and practice and practice a sport to become good at it and win at their little games or whatever, why can you not apply that same logic to homework? I want my kid to be good in French. Maybe I need to let them have homework for French class. I want my kid to be an avid reader. Maybe I need to promote that they read, or maybe I need to make sure that they read with me so that I can make sure that they're understanding what they're reading, because maybe they can see the words and read the words, but maybe they're not seeing the picture of what these words mean. If I want my kid to be a mathematician, then perhaps I need to encourage them to maybe take advanced math classes. If my kid can handle it, they're going to have more homework, extra homework. It'll be tougher, but if my kid already demonstrates that they're good at math, why would I keep them at a slower level? If my kid is great with science, how about if I get them to join the science club? Something like that. And then you'll see that your kid will continue to grow in that area. You want the final result, but you don't want to invest in the pathway to get your kid to that final result. That doesn't make sense. I can define as an adult what homework did for me when I was a kid and a teen as a reinforcer, a supplement. I looked at homework as this is the diagnostic test for my teacher to see whether or not I understood the work. And my teachers would have you turn in the homework, and the teacher, maybe during their lunchtime, or they took that shit home, or maybe during that one block when they don't have any classes, they do their planning, but also maybe some homework grading. I'm not sure how all of my teachers did it, but from what I heard, that's what my mom used to do and what some of them used to do. They graded this homework. You don't think that the teacher has the capacity to make a mental note of who is struggling and who isn't struggling based off our work that we showed on homework? Please. I mean, some homework worksheets were fill in the blanks. My teachers could memorize those fill in the blanks to the point that they could just skim through the page and be like, nah, this is not the word that is supposed to go on this blank, therefore, boom, wrong. See what I mean? So I think parents just need to, and I hate saying this because as an adult I'm struggling, but you have the kid. Suck it up, understand that it's no longer about you. Let go of your phone, let go of your entertainment, sacrifice yourself, just like literally every parent before you had to. I know my mom sacrificed a lot of her fun as an adult to help us, and sometimes she would get us to a point where she's like, okay, I can trust that my kid can be left at home and they can do their work, and I'll go out and have maybe 2 hours of recreation, and this is it for the week. This is all that I can afford to have recreationally for the week. But I know that my kid is at home studying and doing the homework because she's bringing home good grades. Your kid is not there. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you remember a past when your parents could do things, leave you alone, and they didn't have as much concern for you. Maybe you happen to be a kid that you could be trusted to study and do your work, but maybe your kid is not there. And yes, it does represent an extra burden and work for you, but you cannot just ask for that level to go from medium to very easy, just like you would in a video game. You know how in a video game, when you start a new game, it's like, choose your difficulty. I feel like some parents want to have that choose difficulty option. And again, I know that modern days have their challenges and their toughness and all that, but I don't think that that child should be the one punished for this. You don't see it now, but those kids are going to be unable to hold on to anything. They won't be able to hold jobs. They won't be able to be on top of their bills. They won't know how to manage time. All those little details. Don't look at homework as the enemy. Look at homework as the nutrients, the supplement that your kid needs to become that, I guess, reliable member of society in the future. I don't know, you guys. I was legitimately shocked, not surprised, but just shocked by that sheer ignorance some parents just be vomiting out, and they try to make it seem like they are the ones in the right to opine in that manner and how schools need to do better. Your child cannot learn unless something is fun. That is stupid. And it reminds me of some of you clowns who I be getting on my channel. Some of you say, I had to click away after 30 seconds, after 3 minutes, because you took forever to get to the point. I am sorry that I speak like a real human being, and I like to give you details and context, because details are like extra protein for your body, extra nutrients for your body. I'm not gonna start a video and be like, okay, today I had an asshole at work today. They said this, they did that, I reacted like this. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. No, I'm going to give you the whole context, because if this were a court, you have a right to know the side that your accuser has to say, and you have to know my side as the accused of what I have to say. So I'm going to tell you things from how they were reacting, what they exhibited that I witnessed. I cannot tell you how they arrived at that conclusion unless they shared it on the spot. But I can tell you about where I was coming from and feed you those details. And from that, I can tell you what I can deduce, maybe trigger the other person, but I make it abundantly clear that that's my opinion. That's a skill, okay? Telling a story is a skill. And maybe one of the big issues we have in modern days with miscommunication is that there is a lot of intrigue on a story to keep your audience captivated, but there's really no substance. You have to make sure that you include the substance. My style of speaking substance is rudimentary. I'm not gonna have your stupid ass little special effects, visual effects, sound effects. I'm not going to be cracking jokes. I don't know you in person in real life. Therefore, the way I project my story to you is not gonna be the same way I project my story to my best friend. To my best friend, I may add some entertaining details. I may show some of my sense of humor. I may change my tone and pitch and sound a little bit, because that person has privileges that the rest of you don't. But you don't know how to consider that. So when I think of homework, I look at it as, this is supposed to be a way that you, in a sense, bond with your teacher. Your teacher will know, I guess, your intimate side as a student, which is, damn, this bitch sucks at reading, sucks at spelling, sucks at vocabulary, sucks at counting, sucks at remembering shit. But they don't put you on blast for it. They don't shame you for it. They try to assess you and determine what course of action to take to help you. But no, the very thing that could help your kid succeed, you're trying to get rid of it. How stupid can you be? That is my opinion on this one. Like always, I don't expect you to agree. I am not your guide. I am not your mommy. I am not your teacher. I am not your coach. I am not your boss. I'm not your manager. I'm not your president. Don't come at me. Don't look at me as some kind of answer or expecting or hoping that I'm going to give you the solution for shit. I'm just trying to inspire you to think about this topic if you have never heard of it before, to inform you that this is happening, and to provide you with my personal insight. If you care, if you don't care, I don't care that you don't care. Keep moving on, keep scrolling. But I hope that at least you take some time to consider the potential consequences this is going to have in our society in the near future. And if you care, go ahead and ask me in the comments to make a video about the young people I be meeting as my new colleagues and what their shortcomings are and what my opinion is on where I think those shortcomings come from. That's if you care. That's if you're curious. And even if you don't ask, I still intended to make that as a future video topic. I have kind of mentioned it here and there, but I have not officially made a focused topic on it. That video may be 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 40 minutes long, an hour long. You will prepare for it and you will sit there, watch it, and absorb it, all or nothing, or just the 30 seconds or 3 minutes that you can handle. I don't care. I'm not the one who has attention problems. I can play a video that is an hour long and the narrator can be super monotone. It can be a video with no background images, like some of you fuckers be leaving in other people's channels talking about how the video would be better if you included footage. No, you do the legwork of looking for the footage that you're looking for. Why do you expect for someone else to do all the work for you? Take some pride in doing some work. You as a parent, take some pride in doing some work with your kid. You as a student, take some pride in doing work as a student. How hard can that be? That's all I'm saying here. That's all I'm debating here. And somehow you want to be forced and ready to tackle on life whilst skipping the epoch in which that happens, in which you develop to handle that. That's it. Bye.